Away from the cameras, some vintage stars chose partners who defied the era's narrow standards of beauty. Their marriages surprised fans, puzzled studios, and revealed deeper truths about affection and loyalty in a world built on appearances. These unions were shaped not by beauty standards, but by companionship, devotion, and the quiet bonds that fame could never manufacture. Here are 16 vintage stars who married wives the public never expected, and the lasting marriages that told a very different story. Clark Gable. Clark Gable began his rise toward the throne of King of Hollywood with a secret the studios never advertised. The woman beside him was neither glamorous nor young, and certainly not the beauty audiences expected for a future screen idol. Josephine Ruth Dillon, once his mentor and later his wife, carried a plain, aging appearance that contrasted sharply with the polished star Gable was becoming. When they married in 1924, he still stood at the edge of obscurity, while she, over a decade older, was regarded more as a caretaker than a romantic partner. Reporters rarely bothered to comment on her looks. They simply assumed she lacked the radiance worthy of a rising leading man. As Gable's fame grew, the contrast between them became a quiet Hollywood curiosity. Dillon's unadorned face and modest presence puzzled outsiders who expected their idol to pair himself with a woman of glamour. Yet she remained steadfast, guiding him through elocution lessons, stage training, and the discipline that would eventually define his screen persona. Her refusal to embellish herself or play the star's wife only deepened public confusion, though Gable continued to credit her with shaping the foundations of his success. Their marriage ended in 1930, but the respect between them endured in private gestures rather than public affection. Dillon lived simply and without the shine of Hollywood beauty, but she carried herself with a quiet dignity that resisted gossip. Many years later, Gable paid off the remaining debt on her home, a final acknowledgement that she had given him far more than glamour ever could. She once remarked that being married to him was not a dream, but a cost, spoken without self-pity, as if to remind the world that appearances never defined the heart of their bond. Cary Grant. Cary Grant rose to fame as one of Hollywood's most refined leading men, known for his calm manner and smooth screen presence. Audiences expected him to marry someone who matched the polished image he carried in every film. Instead, in 1942, he married Barbara Hutton, an heiress whose appearance drew frequent criticism. Photographs often showed her looking tired, thin, or ill, and the public rarely described her as attractive. Many people focused on her great wealth and wondered why a man like Grant would choose someone who did not fit Hollywood's idea of beauty. The press mocked their relationship and claimed he had married for money, but Grant denied this again and again. He insisted that he cared for her and that her looks or fortune were not his reasons. When they divorced in 1945, he refused any financial payment, trying to show that his intentions had been honest. He also donated a wedding gift of war bonds to the government, quietly reinforcing that he was not seeking luxury or gain. Though their marriage ended quickly, Grant handled the separation with patience and care. He did not criticize Hutton and continued to speak kindly of her whenever reporters asked. Despite her struggles and the harsh judgment she often faced, he tried to protect her reputation, rather than add to the noise around her. Their short marriage showed that he valued loyalty over appearance, and that his respect for her lasted long after the publicity faded. Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart rose to stardom through the hard-edged roles that defined him, especially in Casablanca and The Maltese Falcon, and his later Oscar-winning performance in The African Queen secured his place as one of the era's most magnetic stars. Before that pinnacle, his personal life took a dramatic turn in 1938 when he married Mayo Methot, a stage and film performer who had once been celebrated for her sharp, no-nonsense presence on Broadway. She was slightly older, known for her intensity, and struggled with heavy drinking, qualities the gossip press amplified with mean-spirited caricatures that obscured her early accomplishments, and the reality that she had held her own in several wartime films. Public commentary rarely acknowledged that Bogart appreciated Methot's sharp wit and her direct manner, even as their relationship became notorious for arguments that tabloids exaggerated relentlessly. He refrained from discussing their private turmoil, keeping a careful silence while she attempted to deflect sensational stories with humor. When their marriage ended in 1945, she addressed the press with a calm, almost affectionate tone, describing the years they shared as pleasant and remarking that Bogart had remained a good man throughout. Her response revealed a desire to protect him from scandal, despite the scrutiny she herself endured. Their marriage, though stormy, displayed an undercurrent of mutual respect. Bogart made sure she was treated fairly, choosing not to claim anything from her financially, and he avoided speaking about their conflicts afterward. Method, for her part, continued to defend his decency, emphasizing his kindness long after their separation. He later began the celebrated partnership with Lauren Bacall, yet accounts of his time with Method point to a relationship grounded in candor and companionship rather than glamour. The chapter they shared ultimately shows that Bogart valued sincerity above Hollywood's expectations, even when the world chose to focus on their struggles rather than their loyalty. George Burns. George Burns built a career that stretched from vaudeville stages to film sets, becoming one of the rare performers whose fame spanned most of the 20th century. His name became inseparable from the comedy team he formed with Gracie Allen, a partnership that carried them from radio to television, and eventually earned him renewed acclaim late in life, including an Oscar at the age of 80. Long before these milestones, the pair had established a rhythm that blended his dry delivery with her imaginative, whimsical persona, a combination that made them instantly recognizable. Gracie, with her light curls, distinct San Francisco inflection, and delightfully offbeat stage manner, bore little resemblance to the studio-manufactured glamour of the era, yet audiences found her irresistible. Her comic unpredictability and charm made her far more memorable than conventional beauty ever could. Rather than mock her quirks, the public celebrated them, and the industry treated the duo as a model of affectionate, finely tuned comedic partnership. Their closing routine, Burns offering the familiar cue and Gracie delivering the graceful sign-off, became an enduring piece of entertainment history. Their life together extended well beyond the stage. Married from 1926 until her death nearly 5 decades later, they shared a bond that remained central to Burns's identity. After losing her in 1964, he often said that a part of him had ended that same year, and he never chose another partner, either personally or professionally. He continually emphasized that half their success belonged to her, describing her as someone who possessed every quality he admired, and crediting her spirit for shaping the act that defined them both. In remembering their story, what stands out is Burns's unwavering devotion. He chose Gracie not for outward glamour, but for the brilliance, warmth, and humor that animated their work and their marriage, qualities he cherished for the rest of his life. Alfred Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock became one of cinema's most recognizable figures, not only through the suspense films that defined his career, such as Psycho and Vertigo, but also through the carefully cultivated persona that appeared in trailers, cameos, and promotional spots. His dry wit, rounded silhouette, and calm, mischievous expression made him a personality in his own right, long before directors commonly achieved such visibility. His personal life, however, took a quieter form. In 1926, he married Alma Reville, a talented screenwriter and editor whose skills had already impressed several British studios. She brought a meticulous eye and a sharp narrative instinct, traits that contrasted with Hollywood's expectation that a director's wife might be a glamorous actress. Alma operated behind the scenes with a precision that rarely drew public attention, partly because the era paid little heed to the creative contributions of women in technical roles, and partly because she and Hitchcock maintained a notably private household. While fans recognized her name only in connection with his, those who worked with them understood that she influenced story choices, character logic, and structural rhythm in many of his films. Their long marriage reflected an unusual blend of partnership and mutual reliance. Over 54 years together, they raised a daughter and navigated the complexities of Hollywood without allowing fame to intrude on their bond. Hitchcock often acknowledged that his wife provided clarity when he needed it most, referring to her as the person who strengthened his work from the shadows. On set, she earned a reputation for spotting continuity issues and narrative gaps that others had missed, functioning almost like a safeguard for his vision. In later life, he returned that devotion by caring for her through lingering injuries and health struggles, describing her wisdom as essential to everything he accomplished. Fred Astaire. Fred Astaire became one of cinema's most graceful dancers, known for polished musical performances through the mid-20th century. His effortless charm and precision set a standard for screen choreography and made him a beloved figure across decades of film. Late in life, he made an unexpected personal choice. In 1980, at 81, he married Robin Smith. Born 1949, a young jockey whose world had little to do with Hollywood. She was athletic, practical, and far removed from the glamour surrounding his name, Observers found their pairing unusual, yet Astaire emphasized that her warmth and energy mattered more than convention, appreciating qualities that had nothing to do with fame. Their wedding drew curiosity mainly because of the age difference, though reports generally treated the couple with respect. Robin was portrayed as friendly and modest, and Astaire appeared content, crediting her with bringing a fresh sense of life to his later years. Public interest focused on the contrast between their backgrounds rather than any criticism of her appearance. Their marriage lasted until Astaire's death in 1987, forming a brief but affectionate partnership. She supported him through his final years, joined him at appearances, and became a steady part of his daily routines. Astaire often expressed gratitude for her presence, showing that companionship meant far more to him than traditional expectations. After his passing, Robin helped maintain his legacy, reflecting the mutual regard they shared. Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas rose to prominence in the 1950s and 1960s, carrying films like Spartacus and Paths of Glory with his fierce energy and unmistakable presence. At the height of that fame, he met Ann Bidens, a poised, multilingual publicist whose confidence and intelligence set her apart from the glamorous actresses surrounding him. They first crossed paths in Paris, and Douglas's early attempts to impress her were politely deflected. She wanted sincerity, not spectacle, and made that clear by turning down grand gestures until he showed genuine respect. Their relationship soon deepened, and public curiosity grew around this unexpected pairing. What people found most striking was Ann's ability to meet Douglas as an equal, a quality he praised openly as the years went on. After a major health scare in the early 1990s, he credited her with helping him recover, a sign of how central she had become to his life. Stories about them tended to highlight steadiness rather than scandal, focusing on the calm partnership they built. The marriage endured for more than 6 decades and weathered personal challenges with unusual honesty. Ann's pragmatic view of love balanced Douglas's intensity, and he often called her the center of his world. Together they raised 2 sons and remained close through shifting eras of Hollywood. In later interviews, he spoke of her as his guiding force, while she described their marriage as a long journey shaped by trust. Their union stands as an example of a star choosing substance over glitter, sustained by devotion rather than image. Charles Bronson. Charles Bronson was a beloved action star, known for the Magnificent Seven and the Death Wish series, a figure whose steely gaze and unshakable presence defined his career. In 1968, he married Jill Ireland, a British actress whose gentle features and modest appearance stood far from the glamorous ideal often paired with Hollywood's toughest leading men. Jill was frequently described as plain, fragile, and unassuming, a quiet contrast to Bronson's hardened screen image. Yet, he admired her deeply, calling her the salt of the earth, valuing her spirit far more than any sense of glamour. Jill's simple style and lack of Hollywood polish puzzled some fans, who expected Bronson to choose a more glamorous partner. Instead, he chose a woman whose strength came from patience, loyalty, and emotional steadiness. Their marriage was built on shared habits, mutual honesty, and an unusual ability to weather hardship together. When Jill battled cancer, Bronson stepped away from lucrative roles, devoting himself entirely to her care. Friends later said he was never the same after her death. He kept her ashes in the handle of his walking cane, a symbol of devotion that lasted for the rest of his life. Their union proves that Bronson valued character, loyalty, and quiet resilience above any ideal of beauty. Although Jill never fit the glamorous mold, she offered Bronson a calm refuge from the intensity of his work. At home, she preferred simple routines, gardening, reading, and quiet evenings far from the noise of premieres and publicity. Her understated nature allowed him to shed the tough exterior that defined his screen persona. Those close to the couple observed how he softened in her presence, relying on her steady temperament to balance his own guarded personality. As the years passed, their bond became the emotional center of his life, proving that Bronson's deepest attachment was not to Hollywood glamour, but to a woman whose quiet devotion shaped his world. Groucho Marx. Groucho Marx became legendary through his Marx Brothers comedies, his sharp wit and painted mustache making him instantly recognizable. In 1920, he married Ruth Johnson, a young chorus girl with no Hollywood sheen and none of the glamour audiences expected for a rising comic star. Ruth's plain features and modest background drew little attention from the press, which often described her only in relation to Groucho. To many observers, she seemed an unlikely match for a man whose fame depended on image and charm. Yet Ruth offered something far rarer than beauty: She was steady, gentle, and unpretentious, qualities that grounded Groucho during years of constant touring and studio pressure. Friends noted her quiet patience and her devotion to family life, traits far removed from the glitter of show business. Though the public barely noticed her, she shaped much of Groucho's private world, providing stability during the brothers' transition from vaudeville to film. The couple shared 2 children and remained together for more than 2 decades. Groucho often joked about their differences, but behind the humor was real affection. Their marriage shows that he valued warmth, loyalty, and companionship above the polished glamour Hollywood prized. James Arness. James Arness became an enduring television icon through his portrayal of Marshal Matt Dillon on Gunsmoke, his towering frame and calm authority defining the classic Western hero. Audiences saw him as rugged, commanding, and larger than life. Off-screen, however, his romantic life took a quieter, more surprising turn. In 1978, he married Janet Surtees, a woman whose appearance and background stood far outside the glamorous image expected for a star of his stature. Janet lacked Hollywood sparkle and carried none of the photogenic allure typically paired with leading men. Her plain, unembellished look drew little public interest, and the press rarely mentioned her except as Arness's companion. Janet lived far from the spotlight and seemed uninterested in cultivating any sense of public glamour. Her modesty, simple style, and preference for privacy contrasted sharply with Arness's celebrated television persona. Yet these very qualities drew him to her. Friends noted that she offered steadiness and sincerity rather than the polish associated with celebrity wives. She cared little for attention, choosing ordinary routines and humanitarian work over red carpets. Their marriage lasted more than 3 decades, marked by devotion rather than display. Arness often acknowledged how much comfort he drew from her steadfast presence. Together, they built a life grounded in companionship rather than appearances, proving that, for a man idolized for his heroic image, the truest partnership came from warmth, humility, and quiet loyalty. Billy Wilder. Renowned for classics like Some Like It Hot and Sunset Boulevard, Billy Wilder was one of Hollywood's most celebrated directors and screenwriters. While his professional brilliance attracted attention, his private life was quietly anchored by Audrey Young, whom he married in 1949. Audrey had been a bit-part actress and big band singer, but had no desire for stardom. She lacked the glitz and glamour often expected of a director's wife, preferring a life of practicality, costume design, and behind-the-scenes involvement. Her unassuming nature contrasted sharply with Wilder's rising celebrity, but he valued her intelligence, discretion, and unwavering support above appearance. Hollywood insiders admired Wilder's ability to maintain privacy and shield Audrey from the spotlight. She never sought fame and rarely appeared in press coverage. Their marriage lasted more than 5 decades, marked by shared devotion and mutual respect. Audrey's steadiness allowed Wilder to flourish creatively, and he often referred to her as his treasure. They had no children, yet their companionship was profound. Wilder's choice reflects that he prioritized character, loyalty, and a partner who grounded him over conventional beauty. Audrey's quiet presence demonstrates that lasting love in Hollywood often resides in substance, not superficial glamour. James Cagney. James Cagney's versatility made him a Hollywood legend. Equally adept at portraying gangsters and angels with dirty faces, and singing and dancing in Yankee Doodle Dandy. Despite his fame and public adoration, he married Frances Billy Vernon in 1922, a woman entirely unremarkable by Hollywood standards. Billy had been a chorus dancer, shy, and self-described as plain. She deliberately avoided the spotlight and offered none of the showy glamour expected of a star's wife. In public, she was simply Mrs. Cagney, a private, grounded presence far removed from the allure of celebrity spouses. Cagney's commitment to privacy meant the media rarely commented on her looks. When mentioned, coverage focused on their long marriage and life away from Hollywood, where they embraced country living and a stable home. Remarkably, they remained married for 63 years. Cagney credited her steadiness for his happiness and professional success. Even when told she was ordinary, Billy humorously remarked that being married to the hunk had its costs. Cagney remained devoted through health challenges, never remarried, and exemplified how a leading man could prioritize loyalty, kindness, and companionship over public notions of beauty. Their partnership shows that love rooted in stability and character can surpass superficial expectations. Charlton Heston. Famous for epic roles like Ben-Hur and the Ten Commandments, Charlton Heston was a defining presence in Hollywood. Yet, off-screen, his choice in spouse defied conventional starry expectations. He married Lydia Clark in 1944, a Broadway actress and later a photographer who was neither glamorous nor a publicity figure. Lydia had an understated elegance and a practical, no-nonsense demeanor. While Heston portrayed demigod figures on screen, Lydia's strength was quiet, grounded, and intellectual rather than visual. She complemented his life with support, stability, and partnership in both theater and home endeavors. The public and press admired their long-standing union, noting their remarkable stability. Lydia accompanied Heston to sets and premieres without seeking attention herself, and he consistently credited her with sustaining his career and personal life. They remained married for 64 years, raised 2 children, and collaborated in community theater, sharing interests beyond Hollywood. Heston's choice underscores that he valued loyalty, wisdom, and steadfastness over glamour. Lydia's calm, intelligent presence offered him balance and partnership, proving that a successful, enduring marriage in Hollywood can rest on intellect and mutual respect rather than external beauty or societal expectation. James Stewart. James Stewart was celebrated for his everyman charm, starring in classics like It's a Wonderful Life and Vertigo. Known for his integrity and gentle persona, he carried a modest off-screen life that contrasted with his heroic on-screen image. In 1949, he married Gloria Hattrick, a former model and actress who had been previously married and had 2 young sons. Gloria was elegant but quiet, never seeking the Hollywood spotlight, and far from the dazzling, high-profile starlets many expected Stewart to wed. The public admired the pair for their stability, dubbing them a golden couple. Gloria focused on raising their children and pursuing charitable work, offering a supportive yet unassuming presence in Stewart's life. Media coverage largely ignored her appearance, concentrating instead on Stewart's career and the couple's family life. Their marriage lasted 45 years, producing twin daughters and co-parenting her sons. Stewart often highlighted Gloria's selflessness and intelligence as central to his happiness. Theirs was a partnership grounded in mutual respect, love, and quiet devotion. Stewart's choice illustrates that in an industry obsessed with glamour, a stable, loyal, and intelligent spouse could be the most precious complement to a leading man's life, proving that character mattered far more than public appearance. Dick Van Dyke. Dick Van Dyke, famous for The Dick Van Dyke Show and Mary Poppins, was known for his boyish charm and physical comedy. Yet, his personal life demonstrated a preference for humility over Hollywood glitz. In 1948, he married Margie Willett, a grade school teacher from Illinois. Margie was an ordinary woman by industry standards, completely outside the celebrity world, and the wedding itself took place on the radio show Bride and Groom, far from the red carpet spectacle typical for Hollywood marriages. Margie offered Van Dyke a steady, grounded presence. She was supportive, practical, and nurturing, qualities that kept his life balanced amid the demands of show business. Their marriage lasted 36 years, producing 4 children, and no scandal disturbed their household. The press treated their story with mild amusement rather than gossip, emphasizing the sweetness and devotion of their partnership. Van Dyke credited Margie for his stability, often noting her values and character over appearance. Their decades-long relationship highlights how an ordinary spouse could provide extraordinary support. In Hollywood, where beauty often dictated expectations, Van Dyke's choice underscored that loyalty, kindness, and shared life goals mattered far more than glamour or superficial allure. Paul Newman. Paul Newman was a Hollywood icon, known for his smoldering blue eyes and leading man roles in The Hustler and Butch Cassidy and The Sundance Kid. Despite his fame and handsomeness, he found enduring love in Joanne Woodward, an actress whose appeal lay less in high glamour looks than in intelligence, independence, and talent. When they met, Woodward saw beyond Newman's striking exterior to a genuine, earnest personality. Newman admired her modern outlook and autonomy, qualities that drew him far more than surface beauty. They married in 1958 and remained together for 50 years, raising 3 daughters and navigating the pressures of Hollywood with devotion and mutual respect. Woodward focused on her craft quietly, avoiding the limelight and grounding Newman in a life of balance and family. Press coverage emphasized their partnership and professional accomplishments rather than glamour, framing them as a golden couple based on compatibility and trust. Newman consistently praised Woodward for her loyalty and insight, describing her as the foundation of his personal and professional life. Their union demonstrates that lasting love in Hollywood was built on character and emotional connection, not appearances. Even a star renowned for his looks chose a spouse whose inner qualities mattered far more, proving that devotion and respect define a relationship's true beauty. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this look behind Hollywood's polished surface, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below.